Okay, number one, we've had this before, and it's on page 7, 8, or 9 in your materials, but here it is. This is the out the door price. The first thing you've got to do is read it carefully. The fees are $56.88, the sales tax is 8%, and the discount 10% off of the sticker price. The first thing we do is subtract from 18,000 the fees, which are not taxed. How do I know? Now, right here, you got to say equals if you're using a calculator that does the order of operations correctly, because I want to subtract 56.88, and whatever the answer to that is, that's going to be divided by 1 point the tax rate, because it's 108% of something. So this number has tax in it. So I got to divide that by 1 point the tax rate. And that's 16,614, but that reflects a 10% discount. That means the dealer knocked 10% off, and what it was left was the other 90%. So you got to divide that by 0.9 or 0.90. It's the same thing. And that's how I got 18,460. Boom. Okay. This one, she wants 38,000 left after giving the Internal Revenue Service 20% of the amount withdrawn. And that is not 20% of 38,000. 28% of the amount withdrawn goes away, which means the other 80% stays, and 80% is 0.8 or 0.80. So she's got to take out $47,500. It says to the nearest dollar. This one came out even to $500, so there's no rounding off that you have to do. All right. Number 3, the winning percentage is the number of games won divided by the number of games played. And 54 plus 28 is 82. So that's, oh my goodness. You don't have to put the 0, but I like to. 6585. Now that is equal to 65.85%. But I asked you to round it to what? The nearest 0.1%. That's what this means. So the nearest 0.1% is 65.9. Got to look at the numbers. I should say rounds to that. All right, now this one is the one that I got, and the guy given the grant writing seminar didn't know how to work the problem. He was taking 7% of 3,200,000 and adding that on. No, the college pays 7% of the total budget. I'm sorry, I misspoke. He was taking 7% of that number and saying that's the college's share. No, the college is 7% of the total budget, and the rest is the $3.2 million. So that means that $3,200,000 is the other 93% of the total budget. So the total budget multiplied by 0.93 has got to be 3,200,000. That's why you have to divide it by 0.93. And that means the total budget is $3,440,860.22. All you have to do, some people were saying that they copied it over wrong on their paper. What paper? It's on your calculator. Multiply it by what? The 7%, because that's what the college's share is. And that's why the answer turns out to be 240,860. Whoops. 800. You got to be careful. $860.22, because the 5 is big enough to round that 1 to a 2. Shakalaka. Okay. Now, in this case, you add these little piddly things, 5 and 7 is 12, and 20 is 32, 35%. They all total 35%. So the rest is the other, guess what, 65%. So I prefer to do this problem like this. 700 times 30, because if you do it in the order, if you say 50,000 plus 700 times 30, on this calculator, it's going to add 50,000 to 700 and then multiply that by 30. But the only thing multiplied by 30 is the 700. Now, a scientific calculator would do it correctly. If you said 50,000 plus 700 times 30, it'll do 700 times 30. But on this little cheapie here, 700 times 30, I'm doing it first, because then I can add 50,000 and I can add 250,000 and look at every single number. You look at it before you hit anything else. That's 321,000, and that's divided by 0.65, because that's the other 65%. 35% of it goes for those things. What's left is the other 65%, and that's equal to, hope I did this right, $493,846.15. However, it says to round it to the nearest $100. So what's that? Are you kidding me? 493,846.15. And that rounds to what? To the nearest $100. The hundredths place is where the 8 is. The 8 is there. One digit to the right is 4. 4, is it big enough to make that 8 into a 9? No. So it's 493,800. Okay, and the last one, we got to add all these things together. 4 and 7 is 11, 24, 29. These add up to 29. And if you miss that, you're going to miss the whole thing. So 4 divided by 29. Now notice I'm going to give more digits as necessary at first. So this is 0.1379. Now that's all I need to round it to the nearest tenth of a percent, because that's 13.79%. And so does that round off to 13.8, or does it say 13.9? Well, I think we know the answer to that. 13.8%. Because the 9 is big enough to bump the 7 up to the 8. Now 7 divided by 29. This cheap calculator, I can just say 7 equals, it's going to give you that. 0.2413, and that's equal to 24.13%. And so that's going to round to 24.1, because the 3 is not big enough to bump it up. 13/29. .4482 equals 44.82%. And the nearest tenth of a percent is where the 8 is, and the 2 is not big enough to bump the 8 up to the 9, so it's going to stay 44.8. And 3/29 is 0.1034, and that's equal to 10.34%. And so I'm going to round that to the nearest 0.1%, which is where the 3 is, and that's simply 10.3 because the 4 is not big enough. And the F's were 2. Nope, I missed a 0. And that's equal to 6.89%. Or dollars, nope, percent. And so I'm going to round that to 6.8%. Because why? Because, no, I'm sorry. I'll round that to 6.9% because the 9 is big enough to bump it up to an 8. Now let's see if I got all of those right. We'll find out in a minute. 13.8, 24.1, 44.8, 10.3, and 6.9. Okay. And 18,460, 47.5, 47.5, then 65.9%, I believe is right. Yep, and then 240,860.22. Yep, and then number 5, 493,800. Okay, well, hallelujah. I think that those are correct. All right, I'm going to stop recording now and entertain questions.